Well, we have our fifth character now, right? Character number 5. We had an awesome. We're again kind of the theme of this week, right? Is finding balance, finding stability, negotiating across the table with each other, and we can now fill in. You know, part 2 for tonight. I'm taking part 1 of Saturday, and I'm doing it now because I wanted to give Derek a little bit more time to fine tune his presentation here to us. So I went through, and I had no idea who our fifth character is, and now we can go through. You can actually see a lot of the prep work that I do for our SWAT report. You know, so here we have Elena. She has a 13 strength, 18 dex, 12 con, 10 int, 14 wisdom, and a 10 charisma. She is proficient in strength and dex, and her alignment is chaotic neutral. Oh, we can get rid of this. I was using the last one as a template here. Elena doesn't have sleight of hand. What does she have? She has athletics, religion, and survival. Now, to make it a little easier, well, if you're colorblind, you might want to adjust for your own abilities. Though to make it a little easier, something that I like doing is, where are we strong, right? Here we have 3 characters in these 2 skills. We have a lot of backup. If the party were to split for some reason or something happened, we have good coverage in religion and intimidation. We have okay coverage in survival, medicine, insight, and that's it. We have access to, but by only one character, athletics, acrobatics, arcana, history, investigation, nature, animal handling, performance, and persuasion. And we have no coverage in these skills. Well, proficiency, I should say. We have no proficiencies in these skills. It doesn't mean that they can't be rolled. It doesn't mean they can't be attempted. No one is proficient in them. And so we can read them out. Let me move this over a little bit here so you can see this a little bit better. And then I'll put the characters over here. You misread chess as cheese and was deliciously confused. Oh, from above. I posted a concept art for Bortharian. Ooh, what do we have? Hey, very cool. Okay, well, Eltron, if you're fine with that, we can plug this in, because right for Bortharian here, I did a basic search and I said, oh, this seems like an entertainer, right? He's got the leer. He's dressed kind of in a foppish outfit, but I don't mind dropping that artwork in. Yeah, definitely. That is good stuff. I like the performance, like the eye makeup you gave him too, Eltrion. Okay, party languages. Did we get anything new with Elena? Common, Halfling, and Sylvan. Well, we have Sylvan, and we do have... Oh, we add Halfling. Now, before tonight's stream, I had to fill in a couple gaps, right? Sapset met here. I gave him the Sylvan language because I figured it made sense if he has a Archfey patron that the patron would teach his or her enforcer the native language. Clara, what did I have to do with Clara here? Oh, she had a language as well, and I figured, well, look, if she's studying magic, gnomes are very good wizards. As well, if we're looking at divination, you know, the process of things, how things work, cause and effect, like almost like cogs in a machine, I figured that she would have studied under gnomes. Especially because gnomes are present here in Uct, let alone in other places around Mesotopia. So it made sense for roleplay reasons to give her that. Did I give him anything else? No, here do you have that. Haska here. I don't think I had to give Haska anything. Bortharian. I made him proficient with Weaver's tools, so he can fix his costume. He can make himself costumes. He can sew things that are important. And in fact, hey, if we have this split flag, maybe he can sew that together. I did give him a lyre, Lyre, to play. And well, I dropped in character art, but I'm going to replace it with Eltrions. Then lastly, what do we have? So we added Halfling. Tools. Shakuhachi. Instrument. Okay, then lastly here we have our 5th character, Alania. Pardon, my nose is a little drippy. Monk. Melee. I don't know if I'd necessarily call her light magic. Maybe if you want. She's definitely melee if we're looking at rolls. Now, for this part, how do we know each other? This is going to be more in the realm of what Macabre Derek is going to offer. We can see some connections between them. In fact, it's really nice, right? We made this region of Uct. It is heavily forested. It has this tree with a spirit trapped in it. And look, we have a Fey Pact Warlock. We have a Druid. We have a Sorcerer who follows a Water Dragon heritage, which, by the way, our Warlock is of Water Dragon heritage as well, being a blue dragon. Blue is the chromatic version of bronze, or bronze the metallic version of blue. We have tons of water, lots of rain here. We do have seas and rivers. And now we made a Wave the Shadow monk with a very strong Fey connection that perfectly fits her into this area of Uct. All random, and look at it. It's wonderful. It's amazing. In my opinion, anyway. Some of you might be tired of it. Who wants to talk to elves anyway? We're seeing some weaknesses already. Hey, and Hakora just hosted. Thank you very much, Hakora. Welcome to you and any who came over here. Let's bring... do we need that back? No, probably not right now. So, how do we know each other? We can make some vague notes, right? So there is a vague theme of forest, jungle, wet living. Uct residence. connection through the torn flag from a sunken ship. What else? We had Bortharion. His trinket was a small mirror that shows a much older version of the viewer. Haska had a walking cane with an iron ferrule that strikes sparks. And Clarity had a bouquet of funerary flowers that always looks and smells fresh. Interesting. Connection with the spirit tree and its affects nightmares. There we go. Maybe the monster that chose her was a resonance of this spiritual tree in some way. Bubonic nom 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 nom. Yay, some cheese and crackers is good stuff. Kane, I dug it out of my you dug it out of your cheese hole earlier. Sometimes you just got to go with it. So good though. Fresh cheddar. It's even better when you head it up. So you use a nacho topping. Oh. All right. So here's some basics. Ultimately, though, Derek is going to be the one who encircles the strings of fate around our party, and as a drawstring, brings them all together. Okay, so yeah, I'm like, well, there are heads of cheese, but what are we talking about here? Wizards don't have spell check. But isn't spell check a wizard itself? Isn't it a spelling wizard? Okay, now we some of you makes note to self create spell check spell. It's really just a little cantrip that makes a check mark in the air. All right, so first things first. Our strengths. Look, we have... I think we have the traditional roles of combat covered. Maybe with the exception of having a... a proper tank. Though tanks don't really exist in 5th edition. It's way more defined in 4th. But we have a fairly balanced party, right? Our druids are healer. We have high magic with our druid, our wizard. Our warlock is like medium magic, and he can do melee or ranged as well with it. Our druid can even do like non-magical ranged combat. Our sorcerer is high magic. Fairly balanced party. Heavy magic users equal many options. Many RP battle options. I think this is a strength as well. Look how absolutely like swollen with hit points our party members are. Very physically healthy party. Con. Clara looks like she's our strong woman here, right? You can highlight who's doing what. You can go top 1, top 2 if you want. You could even do this too if you wanted, because they're really close. Decent whiz. I mean, how many? 1, 2. 3 of the 5 party members have 8s. That's not too bad. But look at this. There's a good spread of strong points throughout the party. All characters excel in at least one ability. What's our spread of saves? Wisdom, Charisma, Int Wiz, Int Wiz. Wait, is that Int Wiz for Haska as well? Oh yeah, because that's we have a Druid, and then Clara is a Wizard. Yeah, they share Int Wiz. Concha, Strength Dex. 2 Charisma, 3 Wisdom, 2 Int. Technically all the saves are covered, though it is a more intellectual party than physical. Also, I forgot to change that. That should be neutral good. So if there's any more strengths, that's something internal to the party, throw it out there. We do have no mention halfling. We are speaking the languages of the region at least. So we do have regional language ability. Not a full spread though. Going battle. Dark Wolf goes into a dungeon. Ooh, a lewd ooze pops out. Disadvantage, adding a +2 modifier. 1 in 5. Oh no, she falls on her own, I don't know, Druid focus or whatever you came back as. You know the drill, falls on sword. And asks for a res, please. Male half-elf fighter. Oh, very charismatic fighter. Weaknesses. There are 4 skills. 4 skills without proficiencies. No Elven language in a party that could be... Remember, this is us as PCs doing an examination, okay? That could be Fae-themed. The amount of magic users could prove a weakness due to over-specialization. If you go up to something that's resistant to magic, or you go... Remember, there's an anti-magic area somewhere in Upt. Something to consider. Tools, I don't know. Now, a common one, though, is we do not have no thieves, tools, proficiency. So if we're doing any trap disabling, we're doing it by hitting it with stuff until it snaps, or or avoiding them. What are some other weaknesses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. 9 skills have only 1 party member proficient in it. And actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. SAT met is 4 of those 9. So if something happens to SAT met, then all of a sudden you now have 4 glowing red bars on our party sheet, because he's not around for Arcana, History, Nature, or Persuasion. Oh, by the way, Religion and Intimidation, we can go up here. Oh no, critically failed. Oh, Caden, you're getting some bad luck, man. Dreams up all kind of bad things he can do to stream elements, looking around to find a glass of water. He looks very thirsty. Low skill usefulness? What do you mean by that, Plunder Loot? What do you mean low skill usefulness? Ooh, that pizza's hot. Even still. No, you cannot have any. Yeah, she wakes up and she's like, oh, a thing. You gonna have to check it for poison for me? But what do you mean by low skill usefulness, Plunder Loot? We'll be generous and say we have 1.75 melee fighters in the party. We have the monk. The 0.5 could be the druid who can animal shape and beat stuff down as a bear. And we have a blade lock. And I mean, obviously, if you're playing the blade lock, you're going to take him into combat in some way. But he's not necessarily built to be a tank. It's just that he can manifest melee packed blade if he needs to. Hey, funny man, where are we at? We have completed our 5th horror-themed character. And tonight we're going to get the party together so that tomorrow evening Derek can take us through his dungeon and he can take us through the elements of building a horror-themed campaign. They're all limited in the skills they have with 4 off the table, and a lot, most only have 1 or 2 characters that have that skill. Yep, yeah. Right. 4 have no one who's proficient in it, and look at how many, I think it was 9. 9 only have 1 person, and of that 9, Satset is very valuable to the party because he's bringing 4 skills that he himself and no one else has proficiency in. Civil Hermit with another great emote. So, funny man, we're doing the SWOT analysis for the party. Opportunities. What are external opportunities for the party? If you need me to go up here, here's their stats, here's their saves and alignments. What are some things that I think that much potential for character growth as individuals and to grow together. And if you're curious, funny man, I know I'm partially blocking it because this is, this over here is what we're focusing on. Our 6th character is a female Lightfoot halfling monk, Way of Shadow, with the Haunted One background. I also think there's some creative thinking to avoid or even work with the madness system we've imposed. I think because we have a druid and a teleporting monk, many opportunities to explore areas that other parties may find difficult. You could also call this 3 D&D, right? 3-dimensional, or 3 Dungeons and Dragons, 3-dimensional. If we can have people who can teleport into darkness, as long as you can see the darkness, as weird as that sounds. If we have a druid that can turn into some jungle monkey and go up the side of a cliff and explore caves and out of the way locations, or slither down as a snake into root systems and things like that. I think that we have a very neat way to explore the world. And of course, with our diviner, that can really help out. Actually, on that point, divination rolls are a strength. Those 3 rolls that you get to keep, or because you can impose them on enemies or keep them for yourself, especially if you don't want to fail the save for your madness, or you really want to get that last hit on a boss. The divination rolls are their own boon, in my opinion, to the party. Opportunities. Actually, explore each of their origins. And we're not even just talking about the hermetic discovery here. The campaign, as a party, we are going to get to discover perhaps the origin of this Fey Pact. The origin of her natural magics. Or, I'm sorry, whoops, that was a druid. Why does she have all these visions? What is granting these visions? How can she use her powers to foresee or to help right the wrongs? She has her own flaws here. The origin of her natural magics. The exploration of her folk hero background and of her hermetic background. Of his knight background. As an entertainer, I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities for that to come up. But also we can explore his draconic bloodline, because he might share a connection in some way with Sapsetnet. What if they're great, grand cousins or something like that? A monk way of shadow. She can explore her origins, her background as a haunted one. Why can she do these abilities? We can say she went to a monastery if we want, or if we want to make it a little more supernatural, when she was touched by this great power that killed everyone else and left her alive. This is the dark gift that was left to her. Who am I? What am I doing? And explore their origins. Who am I? What am I? Moral questions. Am I still in? Okay, now we're in the catacombs. I'll put us in Swamplandia for a little bit now too. Now, what are some external threats? Well, madness is an external threat for sure. There we go. It's cooled off. I'm going to eat a slice of cheese pizza in front of you all. The horror theme might be more roleplay heavy than mechanical. Not that there's not going to be any fights. I'm sure that Derek is considering different types of fights. But horror is personal. Horror is often not knowing what's happening. but knowing that something is happening. That might require the suspension of disbelief in us as players. I'm not afraid of spiders. Well, my character is. So do you just say, yeah, he's afraid of spiders and walks away? Or do you get into the character and you roleplay, or even if you are afraid of spiders and your character is too, well, that's a good convenience. And you describe how your eyes light up, and if you want a roleplay heavy game, this might be it. Can also be very personal. I see you. You still can't have pizza. It could be. It could challenge us personally, especially if if the opportunity to explore morals comes up. Anything with anti-magic capabilities, from a natural zone to counter spells, or even stronger spellcasters that know spellcasting shenanigans. Right? Unless the big bad evil guy at the end, if such a thing exists, unless they're just a fighter and they're like, no, hi, well, you're swarming now. You're a one cat swarm, or you're going to be a two cat swarm. Isn't it amazing how she wants attention right now? Just conveniently, right? I'm eating a 6 cheese pizza and she's like, oh, hi. Love me. No. This is why we can't have nice things. And so if we're spellcasters and our enemy or something knows about spellcasting, can we be more clever than the practiced spellcaster? Excuse you. Yep, a floating kitty. For any of you out there, then, are there any other strengths or weaknesses that are internal to the party that I missed? Are there opportunities or threats to our party that I missed? Those are external. Those are things beyond our control. SW is PC stuff, OT is DM stuff. Thump, 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 thump. Playing the jungle drums of Ukt. Thump, 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 thump. Thump, 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 thump. Ooh, we got 3 little crinkles out of your tail that time. Not your record, but that's a pretty good one. Oh no, where'd it go? I must have lost it. The return of the creature that haunts Alania. Okay. Alania's monster. Sapset Met's patron. And I don't know if any of the others... Let's look at their bonds and flaws. I want to be famous, whatever it takes. A proud noble once gave me a horrible beating, and I'll take my revenge. Okay, so this could be... Oh, geez. What if it was Sapset-Met's family that gave the beating? And we have a hidden plot point in there, right? What if Haska has to come to terms with the fact that she's been rolling with Sapset-Met, whose family, like a family member of his, gave her a beating? What if the patron is her monster? That's true. That his patron could be her monster. And what happens? You're still seeking enlightenment. Okay. That's fairly neutral. Chance for inter... I guess that would really be intra-party conflict. All three of you are here now. I keep looking down and there's more cats. Hi. You should say something. Can you meow? You are a cat. Can one of you say please? I try and train them, but they just train me right back. So, Dark Wolf, those are very good observations, by the way. Almost as if some of the 7 deadly sins are a theme, at least partially. You can incorporate something like that into this. I'm very interested in seeing how they're... Bye. Bye, Felicia. I'm very interested in seeing how Derek is going to be pulling them together, right? Almost like the strings of a bag of holding after you've polymorphed someone and thrown them inside to suffocate to death. If there is anyone in here that wasn't in chat last night, that was a topic that we were bringing up. It sounds fun and creepy enough to put that way. Hey, Brock, good to see you. Welcome back. Hopefully I don't have any tomato sauce in my mustache here. That'd be kind of embarrassing. Now, if any of you... Yeah, I like that idea, by the way. If someone is killed, if a sentient being is killed inside a bag of holding, it becomes a bag of devouring as a cursed item. I think that's a great idea. Anyway... Right? You can do it once. Don't do it again. Or it's a cumulative percentage, or how nice you want to be as a DM. You don't always have to be nice as a DM. If any of you are just popping in here, like Brock, we're going over what's called a SWOT report. SWOT. Strengths, opportunity, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Because we now have all 5 of our party members generated for this week's horror campaign that we're going to go over tomorrow. Now, do you have to do this as PCs, as player characters? No, not at all. I find that this is a fun way to be able to rationalize the party as a living entity. What is the party good at doing? What are the strengths of the party? What are the weaknesses of the party? You know, we have to know our weaknesses in order to be able to help shore them up, and we need to know our strengths so we can use them to the best of our abilities. So here's each of our 5 characters, their strength scores and such, and you know what? You are very right if you say, but Matt, we made a level 5 Warlock and we made a level 16 Wizard. What's going on with that? For the purposes of what we're doing, and especially in 5th edition, we can see that Clara is going to have a high intelligence. So does it matter? Is she going to have a higher intelligence at level 3 or 4 than the Druid? Most likely, yeah. So just because the characters are different levels doesn't mean we can't see the direction they're going and who's going to be stronger in something by the time they reach some sort of end point or end game. Because that curve is really flattened in 5th edition. In other editions, yeah, the level, we'd want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples a lot more directly. Eltrin says back, cool, just in time to see the swattage. All the swats. Swat. And so we can break it down. Where are our saves? Are we going to have any interesting... excuse you. Get out of there. Are we going to have any alignment conflicts? Any major ones, anyway? With this party, not necessarily, because both Clara and Elenia here, they're chaotic neutral, but that's not the crazy, like, oh, I'm going to murder someone today, and tomorrow I'm going to deliver a baby, and it's going to all equal out, but a little random. Their chaotic neutral is a part of their personality. Get out there. A part of their personality because they're consumed by conflicting thoughts. They're uncertain. Their ideas change daily, and the struggle is to try and live a normal life while juggling two trains of thought or more. And so it can bleed out into their behaviors for sure. But we're not looking at it in a hard, fast, well, chaotic neutral people are just lull randoms. They're just going to do whatever they please, and everything is fine because they're always happy doing what they like. It's more of an internal struggle as we've branded the characters. Then we listed, okay, so for each of the skills, how many of them are proficient in it? Now, that doesn't mean, look, just because you're not proficient in religion doesn't mean you can't make a religion, but these three characters are more likely to pass the arbitrary threshold of a difficulty class or a DC number that your DM will put out. Green was 2, yellow was 1, and red is if no one is proficient in it. Then we laid out what languages the party can speak. We laid out any tool or instrument proficiencies, gaming proficiencies, kits, and such. And then we took a look at the battle roles. All right? We have a healer in our Druid, although because our Druid is our only healer, that might bottleneck her pilot a little bit. Lots of magic. A wizard, a sorcerer, a druid, a warlock, and a monk. Monks are quasi-magical beings, especially this one who can cast darkness spells and do magical teleporty things. We throw out some vague ideas in how the party knows each other. Ultimately, though, this is going to fall to Macabre Derek to really bring the party in some fashion. But these are prompts that we can consider because through the random nature of our roles, we have Elenia here, who has the same flag and the same madness as Sapset met. Same flag, same madness. And in fact, you can see here in character art, that was reflected. Darkwolf went out of her way to illustrate that perhaps they're holding two halves of the same sunken ship. What does it mean? Also, Eltrion, who came back from break, drew his concept for our Dwarven Sorcerer. And so that's fine. And then I'll replace this image that I found on the internet because I would much rather feature your thoughts, your passions. We made this character together, and if you want to put some sort of a thumbprint on him, I want to encourage that. So very interesting party. Actually, the only one who doesn't have a homemade image here is Clara, or I believe this was Civil Hermit that threw out the name. Was Clara Tolenmat, and that stands for Clara T. She's a divination wizard. But I thought this worked because I believe she favors her human. Let's see. Oh no, that's favorite orc. Oh well. It was still a half-orc in appearance, and she's holding a bunch of scrolls, and I like cats. Do I need another reason? So our strengths, it's a fairly balanced party. It is heavy on magic users, which is a strength. It's also something else. But that gives us a lot of role-playing and battle options. We are very physically healthy. There's a high constitution Like, no one is 10 or less con. I think 12 is our minimum. Lots of hit points floating around in this party. All characters excel in at least one ability. Regional language ability. We're very good with religion and intimidation, and those divination rolls that our wizard gets are great. Being able to store dice rolls ahead of time is amazing. And especially if also she gets lucky as a halfling, if Alania here does. That's one less person that might need to draw on those resources to save him for others. Weaknesses: 4 skills without proficiencies. No elven language in a party that could be Fey themed. The amount of magic users could prove a weakness due to overspecialization. No thieves' tools proficiency. 9 skills have only 1 party member proficient in it. And TUE-SAT met himself, all 4 of his skills are in the 9. If TUE-SAT met is not in the party, you now go to 8 skills without proficiency if something happens to that one character. You also have 1.75 melee fighters in the party. You have the monk, who's a melee fighter, so she's the 1. Then between the druid being able to turn into an animal and go raw and hit things a little bit, and the blade lock, who's kind of a coward and doesn't necessarily like fighting in the front line, you have a little less than 2 melee fighters in a group of 5. Opportunities. These are outside of the party. There's much potential for character growth as individuals and to grow together. There's a tremendous amount of role-playing you can do here. Creative thinking to avoid or work with the madness system. Many opportunities to explore areas that other parties might find difficult. You know, we're playing 3 D&D. We have a shadow teleporting monk. We have a druid that can change shape to climb walls or fly or something along those lines. The spells that could allow us to levitate or, you know, find traps or things like this. And an external opportunity. Each of our characters has the ability to explore their origins as their class, as their background, as just who they are. Why are their personalities this way? Who am I? What am I? And the opportunity to explore moral questions, which could also be a threat. We could probably even, like, put that between the O and the T. Because exploring morals can bring a lot of fun and a lot of tension to a table. You still think Clara's trigger should read more like suffers the blindness condition for 1 full round, instead of blinding effects being a knockout punch. This allots the time one would expect someone to experience. We can do that, Sybil. Again, this isn't ink. If we want to go back and adjust it, or, you know what, as a DM, if we started, so Civil, if you're playing Clara, and you said, yeah, let's see how it works, and for whatever reason, like, bad rolls, or just a lot of this was happening, and it was absolutely, like, pounding you, then we could adjust it on the fly, too. You know, we could always say you built up a little bit of a tolerance since you were so actively participating in that madness. Your brain's like, oh, it's this again? Yeah. Which, by the way, that could be a meta campaign condition. You know, we as DMs can sit down and say, look, we'll spank you with this madness. If you're willing to either purposely invoke the madness, or otherwise, if you're willing to face your fears and overcome them, maybe we'll give you a bonus. Maybe we'll, I don't know, maybe we'll do something as a reward if you're willing to face your fears head on and overcome them and grow, mechanically and in roleplay and fluff terms. That could be a cool conversation. What would I offer you as a DM? You know, so Civil, if you're playing Clara and you're like, yeah, I get it, you know, not being able to see, you're a diviner, that would just kind of, you know, knock her out. If you willingly, you know, challenged yourself to roleplay with that over the course of the campaign, what could I offer you as a DM to take that mechanical journey in order to to highlight or underline or underpin a story-driven journey to overcome this fear, to overcome this debilitation, right? You've been kind of running away from it for so long. You can see everything but the solution that's so clearly ahead of you, which is probably in a horror campaign, you know, plunder loot. Maybe Derek thought of this, but the best way to overcome a fear, it said it in Frank Herbert's Dune, face your fear, let it pass through you. Bite the bullet. Expose yourself to your fears, learn about them, and you'll find that they're not you're not going to be afraid of them anymore. You know, that the last boss of this campaign could very well be us. And what are external threats to the party? Madness. Horror theme may be more RP heavy than mechanical. If I'm DMing for you and I put 4 skeletons on a battlefield in D&D, are you going to be scared of them? Are you scared of skeletons in D&D or zombies in D&D? Are you scared of a Chul? Maybe not as a player. As you know, you could try and filter it as a PC and say, "Oh, it's a skeleton. They shouldn't exist." And by the way, you're rolling normally, you're attacking normally, you're not really shaken by them, but you're like, "Oh, skeletons! Oh, I crit! Look at that! Haha, he's gonna explode into parts." Oh, but I'm sorry, I'm scared. I'm being kind of like sarcastic or a little hamish about the point. You get what I'm saying? So it might be a lot more RP to try and get you as the player hooked and involved in the story, to get your feelings invested. I'm sure there's going to be fights. I imagine that there will be. This can also be very personal as a player. You know, is anyone else calling out, you know, your own fears, your own hesitations, your own shortcomings? No. But you might find yourself thinking about them and challenged by them if we're talking about very visceral feelings. Anything with anti-magic capabilities from a natural zone to counter spells, or stronger spellcasters that know our shenanigans as spellcasters. If you are a 20th level wizard, you know what a little punk, a 5th level wizard is, and all the little tricks they try and pull on you. Because you've been there. You've done it. You literally wrote the book on how to be a punk little wizard and trick people with magic. You know, with a sorcerer or a great magical entity. How do you outsmart the people who wrote the books and made the techniques? That's a very big threat to the party, especially because it's so magic heavy. Possible confrontations as well. Elenia's monster, Sapsetmet's patron, which could even be one and the same. Haska's abusive noble, which could even be Sapsetmet's family member of some kind. And there's a high chance for intra-party conflict here. Something to be aware of. Look, we can be honest with ourselves as PCs. We're writing everything out. And if we're aware of it, maybe we can help each other avoid it. In out-of-character terms. In character, I can see... Let's say that Haska does learn that one of Sapsetmet's, like his cousin or his second cousin removed, was the one that gave her a beating. Haska is very non-bully, and she wants to punish people for that. That's how she became a folk hero. She stole from a rich, corrupt merchant and gave to the poor. You know, she is chaotic good. He's true neutral. You know, would he react? Would he even apologize? And if he did, would he mean it? Civil, I still think Claire... Oh, no, I'm sorry, I already read that. Venom Rage, hey, welcome. Tycho, fear is the mind killer. I'll face my fear and let it pass through me. After the fear, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. That is exactly correct, Tycho. And in fact, I should even I should post a clip of that up on the Discord in the YouTube section. Venom says, I have yet to come across a DM who made me fearful of a game. Oh. Well, I will not be the one presenting the horror campaign tomorrow. It will be Macabre Derek. But now, is this because are your groups more lighthearted, or Like, do you see that as a challenge, Venom? Like, do you want to be drawn in, so drawn into a game that if an NPC dies, it'll bring a tear to your eye? Do you want to be so drawn in that you might as well be that character? And you started at noon, and when you look up, it's, you know, the moon is high in the sky. Like, are you seeking that kind of a game? Tycho says, play vampire with Derek. I promise you can get spooked. That does seem to be something that he is good at doing. Which, by the way, if any of you out there want to arrange games with each other, you're welcome to do so. Use this as a meeting place. So Venom does want to get emotionally attached to a game. I don't blame you. It can be a rare thing, but it's amazing when it happens. What does your group just mostly run mods, or is it all kind of like silly, wacky adventures? Not that there's wrong with either of those. But if you're looking for serious, is it that your other players aren't serious? Or maybe your DM doesn't know how to ramp it up to that next level? Or what in your local meta or online meta, if you play on Roll20 or something, what do you feel is missing, Venom? Not mono. Making it difficult to fight the monster or even know what it is they're fighting can make things more intense. A lack of information breeds horror. And in fact, I think it was Derek who said it in the channel. If it wasn't Derek, I don't know if it was Plunder Loot or someone else. The moment you... Or Bobicus, this might have even been you. Anyway, the moment you give Cthulhu a hit point bar, you've missed the entire point. Most lighthearted doesn't ramp up. That's good pizza, Nisa. Yeah. That's human pizza. Well, hopefully it's not made with humans. It should be made with cheese. But it's human pizza. A monster that engages in hit and run tactics. A monster that appears out of the shadows and makes grapple checks to steal a party member away. A monster that insinuates itself into the party like a doppelganger. Yes. Monsters that aren't afraid to get hit in those hit and run, whatever, in the hit and run attacks. Yeah, take an AO on me. You know, I as a DM. Sure, I'll take the AO. I'm going to keep swooping in and I'm going to make you chase me, and you're going to earn every single one of those because I'm going to tag you right back. And that's what you'd love, Rage? Is your play group, well, I'd say is your play group young. I don't mean like physical age, though that can play into it. Is your play group newer, or is it just what you've always done, like you've been playing for a couple years, Venom? Because I forget if you mentioned how long you've been playing. Is it just you've always kind of played this way so everyone's comfortable with it? Or one that has other goals than hurting the players? I had a night hag just take a... Oh, yeah, that's right, your night hag with her meat puppet. Yeah, Bob, because if you want to re-go over that story, especially for Venom or others who like that sort of stuff, please do. You know, provide inspiration. This is the best chance for people to learn, is by hearing stories of what works from others who run games. Yeah, things like actions while helpless are really big. If you feel helpless, you feel small and scared. Can you make your players feel helpless without crushing them entirely? That's a fine line to walk, but if you can do it, ooh, that's the stuff. 8 months? Okay, so you're newer. I mean, it sounds like you probably have a lot of the gist. Though I'm happy to hear, Venom, that you're ready to step it up. You want to get into a more serious campaign with dire consequences, with maybe more real world repercussions for actions. That's really good. And as Bobicus is sharing his experiences, which he's done a very good job with. If you have questions as well, I mean, I've done a lot of lecturing up here. But if you have questions on, well, how could we turn this situation into something else? You or others, if you're lurking, feel free to say hi. Feel free to ask questions. As I'm describing this, if you look over here and you're like, Heart of Darkness, what does a Heart of Darkness do? Ask those questions as well. This is supposed to be informative, educational. We're talking about D&D as a game with in-game terms. We're having meta discussions. We're talking as DMs. We're talking as PCs. We're doing it all. We're doing it all tonight. D&D, because combat has a certain expected flow to it, it's hard to do horror in. You can definitely do it, but you have to break the normal aesthetic. Yep, you got to be a little creative. A little. Civil says, soon I'm going to be trying out an idea for a lesser devil whose underlying goal will be to shift alignments from good to neutral instead of trying to force evil the whole time, because neutral alignments would be much easier to corrupt. Oh, yeah. The lack of mechanics for fleeing or chasing discourages dungeon masters and players from using those tactics. Well, I mean, you have disengage. If the players don't want to consider that as an option because, like, well, but it wastes my turn, and I get that, right? I'm not an expert in Pokemon, but a lot of you'll get a lot of people who fight strategically in other ways. Warhammer, Pokemon, with turn-based combat, every turn counts. Card games, things like that. They may not see running away as a viable option unless you blatantly highlight it with blinking neon as a DM saying you can run away. You can, and then they're like, yeah, but you're gonna force that. I'm just letting you know it's an option. You don't have to. Lack of mechanics. Okay, then we got that. It also requires player buy-in as well. Correct, Dorgrim. So if you have players like Venom who are actually aching to get involved, to be viscerally involved in a story, that does make it easier. So it'll depend on the crowd you're playing to as a DM. You're absolutely correct, real Dorgrim. None of that fake Dorgrim around here either. We got the real stuff. Bobicus skill challenges exist, so you can do it, but the lack of the formality of combat rules. Yeah, Bobicus says local. Now, what you can do, Venom, when we finish the Mesotopia region, which is a D&D area that we've made in our channel, right? Through participation in chat, through ideas. People have left all kinds of fingerprints on the characters who live here, on the region itself. I'll probably be turning my Tuesday nights into... turning my Tuesday nights into a weekly broadcast, one week at a time. I will be running a homebrew campaign in the homebrew Twitch world that we've made. And if you want to at least come along for the ride, I can't promise a seat at the table, Venom. But if you want to watch a campaign that does have humor but can have very serious points to it as well, I'll invite you when I get to that next step of the channel's growth. You don't really run horror campaign. I have a game with an occasional creepy moment. Yeah, and you know what? All DMs have their strong points too. Or strong points or interests. You can't recover your previous login. Has to do with X-Fire, which is long gone. You're considering introducing a mechanic where PCs are tethered together. Thoughts? Will be your first time DMing. Well, Joyce. Yeah, welcome, welcome. I'm glad that you stepped up and you're asking a question here. Bobik has beat me to it. Yeah, what do you mean by tethered? Are they physically, emotionally? Do they have to stay within like 20 feet of each other to maintain a psychic connection, or what? Kane says, I was thinking about either running or hosting a D&D campaign. I have to put a few things together to do it, including a group. That is kind of an important part of D&D. Okay, I need to take a quick break. I had my dinner, but I didn't make anything to drink. So I'm going to go wet my whistle a little bit. Continue talking. Joyce, we will address your question, and if you have further ones. I may be AFK for a couple minutes, but Bobicus and others in here can help you, and when I come back, I'll be sure to address anything you bring up. Don't hold questions back. This is a rare opportunity. You can sit down with a lot of different DMs and players, people who've been doing it a short time, a long time, and you can pick all of our brains. All right, I've returned. Let's see. Hey, Ironthorn Zower. Looks like you are in fact Venom Rage 88. If that's the case, I'm going to change your nickname to your Twitch name to make it a little bit easier. Venom Rage 88. Okay, try posting something again to make sure that it worked, if you don't mind. Awesome, thank you. Now this time, unlike the beginning of the show, I cannot afford to spill my pitcher of tea, especially because it's not a pitcher of tea. It is a pitcher of fruit punch. I thought about it. I thought about at the beginning of this stream, oh, I bought some new Crystal Light. I'm going to make some fruit punch before the stream so I can sip on it. We're making horror characters. It'll turn my mustache red and my lips red, and I'll be a villain. As I was setting up my stream, I had set the pitcher on the floor, and as I pulled my green screen up behind me, guess what happened? It would have looked like a murder in my house if this had ended up on my carpet. So I'm kind of glad I went with tea at the last minute. But nope, right now, if anything, it'll fall on my very expensive keyboard and I'll be very sad. Looks like Joyce is getting some advice with Bobicus here. If anyone else out there, by the way, wants to ask questions or help Joyce come to an answer, let's do so as a community because we're cool and that's what we do.